So I'm just going to give you today a bit of an introduction into what BIM is. I'm going to go through why it's important, why do you guys care about it, some benefits and uses you can get from it in construction, and what we do at Vinci, and then I'll also go through kind of what our requirements are of supply chain. So what is BIM? I'm going to be a little bit cruel and ask, does anybody know what it stands for in here? Anyone want to put their hand in?
Building information management.
Perfect, that's great. It's a bit of a trick question. There are three different definitions of BIM. The management one is the most important from our point of view, so it's building information management, and that is your organisational structure, so that's how you manage this information. It's kind of the key part. You also have the process, which is building information modelling, so that's the process you go through to produce your outputs, your building information models. So, perfect. So anybody that's been to a BIM presentation before may have seen this slide. This is from Autodesk, one of the key 3D modelling software vendors. And this tries to illustrate where BIM sits in a project lifecycle. So as you can see here, you've got building information modelling in the middle. So that's your process of producing models, 3D models. And then you can see at each stage around your project lifecycle, you'll have information feeding in from each of those work stages. So you'll be adding information into that model, but you'll also be taking information out as well. So that runs all the way through from your project, start of your project, all the way through to when you demolish. So what is the difference between a BIM project and a traditional construction project? So you can see here in the top left-hand corner is an illustration of what a traditional building project looks like. So you've got all your teams sitting at separate desks, normally in separate offices, pushing paper around and then putting it in a filing cabinet, and then at the end of the day, the client will get that big filing cabinet of files. But you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, a BIM project is where all of you are collaborating and adding information together to one central source. So here, the board is representing a 3D digital model. So the idea is you can all see the same information, you'll add to it, you're not duplicating information, and then hopefully be using the same information and be more accurate as well. So at the end of the project, the client gets the board or the 3D model. So I'll talk a little bit about the process. It's a little bit more technical, but it kind of puts it into perspective. So this diagram is from PAS 1192 Part 2. It's one of the key standards for implementing BIM on a project. And the idea is that your client will start the process thinking, what information do I want from this project? What do I want to know about my assets when you hand them over to me? So in that, he'll illustrate to the main contractor or the design team, depending on the type of contract. They'll illustrate those requirements through an employer's information requirements. So it's normally a document saying, what do I want to know about these assets and what 3D models do I expect at the end of the project? Then the supply chain will reply to that. So all of us reply to that saying, okay, this is how we're going to meet those requirements for you. This is how we're going to deliver what you're looking for. And then we produce a plan on how to deliver that. So you break it down into what models you're producing, what assets you're producing, and then you break it down into the level of detail that you're going to provide and when you're going to hand this stuff over. Then at the start of the project, you have information exchange points all the way through. So the client and supply chain, so all of us will share that information with each other at different points of the project. So you'll have work in progress models that each of the designers and fabricators and supply chain will be producing, and then you share that with each other at key points. So you go through your design and construction phases. And you can see here, the bit in the middle illustrates what will be happening to the model. So you have this acronym PIM, which stands for Project Information Model. So that is describing the models produced during the project. So that's when you're adding all this information. The models tend to change quite a lot at this phase of the project. You'll add all this information, and then before you hand over, you'll be able to produce an asset information model, which is what the client will receive. And then they can use that information model to help manage their assets. So why is this important? As we've mentioned already, there's a government mandate. I don't know if anybody noticed that pass us in April, but from the 4th of April this year, the government mandated that we need to deliver BIM Level 2 on all of our private sector or public sector projects. So this is regardless of value, regardless of size. So the kind of main crux of that, what they're expecting us to deliver is 3D models with associated asset data. So 3D models where there's information attached. So information about those assets, like manufacturer's details and when you installed it, etc. In the pipeline, they've said this is about £47 billion worth of projects that this is going to affect. So it's quite a big chunk of projects that we can tap into if we can deliver BIM. And lots of major clients are already kind of buying into this. So the caveat they have is it's centrally procured projects, which I don't fully understand what that means, and I've tried to figure out. But from my point of view, that will mean anything that's fully funded by the government. So anything where the government has put all of the money into a project. So that's kind of your Highways England, your kind of major projects. However, Network Rail and London Underground, kind of two big infrastructure clients, they don't count as centrally procured, but they've signed up to this mandate as well and said, you know what, we don't care that we're partially private funded, we still want BIM too. So it'll affect a lot of our clients and the private sector will be following. So what does this BIM level 2 thing mean? Sorry, I thought I had some illustrations. So this is the government BIM wedge. I don't know if anybody has seen this before. But you can see here, you've got different levels. It's in a wedge shape because you have to fully achieve a previous level before you move on to the next one. So level 0 is your CAD files, your paper. You've got level 1, which is 2D information and 3D. And it's all managed in a common data environment, which basically means a file repository that you save all of your information in for the project. It means that everybody can access that data. The difference between level 1 and level 2, between a 3D model and a BIM model, is in a 3D model, you'll have objects that are dumb. So it means those objects may look like a chair, for example, but that chair has no attributes. It doesn't know anything about it. It doesn't know it's a chair. It just looks like one. But if you click on it, it tells you no information about it. So that's a dumb 3D model. These intelligent 3D models, they're BIM models. When you click on a chair, it will tell you all of this information about it. So it will tell you whatever the client has specified that you explain to them. So color, size, anything that's important to the client. And then there's this level 3 that kind of sits the other side of the red line. So we want to get to the red line. And the other side of the red line is the magical world of level 3. We don't know what this is yet. Nobody's fully defined it. But the idea is you'll have, instead of separate 3D models for different disciplines, you have this one central model that everybody edits at the same time. But technology-wise, we're not quite there yet. So we'll see what that looks like. So as I mentioned, private organisations are signing up to this level 2 requirement as well, because essentially the whole idea of this is that clients can better manage their projects. So they're able to manage their assets in operation and maintenance. So operation and maintenance phases is 80% of the cost of a full project. So why not invest that little bit more money, your 20%, and try and save yourself some money down the line. There are lots of documents and standards that you can follow. So if you want any bedtime reading, struggle sleeping, go ahead and read one of those. Benefits and uses. So BIM is not going to save all your problems on a construction project, but it will help in these issues, primarily rework or clashes on site. So if you carry out clash detection, which is where you get 3D models, pull them together and you check spatially whether they coordinate. So if there's any physical clashes, say for example a piece of ductwork is going through a beam, this program will tell you, or pieces of software will tell you that's happened, and you're able to create a report and send it out to the design team or fabricators. So you'll be able to reduce errors by going out to site, already knowing those problems, resolving them. So you should have a clash-free design. And then also by doing additional things, for example, 4D modeling, which is where you have a 3D model and you attach it to a construction program, which means that you can simulate the changes of the project through the construction. So it means that you can highlight any issues. It means that you're able to illustrate what the program looks like in 3D. So you can show people that aren't used to be able to read a program what's actually happening. And that can help you in making the project more efficient as well. So back in 2014, McGraw-Hill did a Smart and Market report. They do this annually. And they asked globally all contractors to provide their top 3 benefits of implementing BIM. You can see here, green means 80% of contractors agreed globally that this is one of the best benefits, and then orange is 50%, and then yellow is anything below that. So kind of the big key hitters is this coordination, so this clash detection. It's a really key thing. It's easy to do. As long as you have 3D models, you can bring them together and coordinate them. You also have visualization. So a big thing is being able to use 3D models for your stakeholder management. So explaining to your clients what your design looks like, what you're going to be building. A lot of clients can't read drawings, so and a lot of engineers forget that. So being able to illustrate what this looks like to people that would not be able to see it in 2D is really beneficial. We've had lots of examples on projects where being able to illustrate this has meant, for example, on an MOJ project, we're able to slightly amend the design to save the client the cost of an additional guard by slightly changing the alignment of a wall. So the cost of that guard throughout the whole life cycle of the project would have saved a large amount of money to the client by doing that exercise. So it's little things like that where you'd never, as a design team and a contractor team, you'd never pick that up because you wouldn't know those needs. And there's a couple more which you can read. I don't know if everybody's getting the slides.
Yes. I think
Yeah, we're happy to share them, so you'll be able to access this as well. So a big problem that we tend to find at Vinci is that clients want to find out, and kind of our powers that be, want to find out what are the main benefits, what money is this going to save me? Tell me why I should use BIM, because you have that slight investment of software, etc. So what's quite difficult is to give a value as to why BIM is going to help you on a project, because you need two projects that are exactly the same to compare them. Oh, well, I saved this amount of clashes, so it saved me this amount of money, because you might have found it in a different way. So what we've done is said, okay, let's try and report if a BIM project is more successful. So we've got tools, there are lots of tools available. Arup have also done quite a complex, detailed tool, and it basically means that you can work out how BIM mature your project is. And then at the end of the project, you can measure this throughout. And at the end of the project, you can see how successful your project has been. So it just means that you're able to do that comparison, and we can figure out, is it more significant having a BIM project? Is that going to help you be more successful? So what do we do? Our team. So we're a little team at Vinci, and we support, as Gareth mentioned, we support the whole company. There's 6 of us, and we primarily concentrate on supporting those projects that are delivering BIM. So we also support tenders, we review employers' information requirements, we produce BIM execution plans. We also produce 3D and 4D models for the sites, and we give associated costs as well, because as we're such a little team, sometimes we have to subcontract that out to other outfits. We also provide training. That's a really key part of BIM, is that a lot of us don't know the details of it, and particularly people on the ground. So they're the people that are going to really need to know this information, really need to know how to deliver BIM, because they're the ones doing it. So getting that training out there to our teams means that our BIM projects are going to work. And also a strategy. So how are we going to deliver this across the company? So it's kind of a big task at the moment. I just thought I'd show you a little example of what a BIM model looks like. So this is a project we're just handing over at the moment. And this snapshot shows you what we're actually handing over. So one thing to consider, this BIM thing sounds it will make you quite nervous potentially, because you've got to add all this information into models. But what we do with clients is make sure that they are asking for the right information and for the right assets. So a client doesn't need to know lots of detail about an asset they're not going to maintain, because it's meaningless data. It makes the model really big. It's unmanageable for them. So what we do is go through this kind of sense checking process with the client and saying, right, you only want to know information about the assets you're going to service, because that's going to help you in operation and maintenance. So you want to know about your radiators, your boilers, the things you're going to maintain. So on this project, what you can see, this is a hospital. What you can see here is what we actually handed over as with all of this information. So what was actually maintainable on this project. So you've got like doors, windows, and then lots of outlets, so lights, fire detectors, stuff like that. So it ends up not being that massive task that it sounds like. It's actually kind of condensed into what the client really needs. So hopefully that makes it a little bit less terrifying. So what do we need from you guys? This depends on the size of the company. So we expect that our subcontractors, our major subcontractors, are able to deliver 3D models and support us in producing information models as well, so adding that manufacturer data. But then from our smaller suppliers, all we expect is that we get those attributes, those asset information from you guys in a meaningful way so that we can add that information to a 3D model. We're not expecting that our small suppliers produce 3D models because you guys don't have that resource, that 3D modeling resource, and the resource to produce, the resource to actually buy the software as well. And that's the expectation, like possibly down the road when things are cheaper and everybody is able to 3D model across our industry, then it's going to be a lot easier. But for now, we're just expecting to get that asset data and for you to support us in adding this information into the models. We also have assessment forms. This is how we assess the supply chain. So it's more your willingness to support us in this. So we're learning too, and so are clients. So just getting that support. I don't know if anybody's come across the PAS 91 PQQ questions, but that document includes 4 BIM questions as well. So as a main subcontractor, or main contractor, that's what we answer. But it's kind of, you guys need to be aware of that as well, because that's sort of what we're signing up to as a supply chain. And also to make sure you understand the BIM execution plan, which you'd have access to, just to see what we're delivering as a whole and your involvement in that. Okay, and that's me. So thank you for listening. Any questions?